So, as we move into early spring, I've been wondering, how do animals know when to wake up from hibernation? We know that there's some animals that have been hibernating through the winter, but it's not like they've got a smartphone or an alarm clock in their little burrows and caves that is going to ring in the next couple of weeks. So today we are diving into, in our Nature Curiosities series, the fascinating science of how animals instinctively time their emergence from hibernation. So, Dustin, let's start with the basics. Would you mind laying a little bit of a foundation for us on why some animals hibernate in the first place?
Sure. So hibernation is a physiological state, a transformation that an animal's body goes through that's all about conserving energy during times when food is scarce, or simply the equation of calories intake and calories expended doesn't balance in a way that can support their survival effectively. So usually that happens in winter, when it would require a lot more energy to stay warm and stay alive at a time when food is scarce. So certain animals can slow down their metabolism, their heart rate, and even their body temperature to survive long periods without eating. We often think of bears, they're kind of the classical example, but hibernation isn't just for them. Other animals like groundhogs, bats, and even some rodents hibernate or go into kind of a half hibernation state called torpor as well. Fun fact, certain frogs, like wood frogs, can freeze solid and survive by producing a natural antifreeze in their blood. We covered this in a previous episode, so check out episode 10 if you want more details about that.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun discussion, and we discussed Big Night as well. And if you don't know what that is, I also recommend checking out that episode. But okay, so winter came, they all went to sleep in their little burrows. I kind of envy them. I kind of like to hibernate a little myself and stay inside in front of the fireplace in the winter months. But what wakes them up? Like, is it just that the weather gets warm? Like, is that it? They're
Uh,
just like, oh yeah, it's not cold anymore. I might as well get up.
Primarily, but there's two major triggers. One is rising temperatures and also increased daylight or photo period, the sort of number of hours of daylight are both big factors. So animals can sense this change in the seasons and respond accordingly. Um, Even animals hibernating underground in caves or in caves like bats can detect subtle temperatures and humidity changes. The humidity changes are important, particularly in cold climates, because when everything's frozen, there's not as much humidity in
Yeah,
the air,
it's
so they
really
can sense it
dry.
that way. And then some of them simply rely on their biological clocks. So groundhogs respond to changes in the length of day. Bears wake up as their fat stores turn low. So there's biological processes that play a role. And even simple things like needing to use the bathroom, which we think of that as something that happens every several hours. But if you're hibernating and you're not eating, you don't really have to process food and stuff much. So they might not have the urge to go to the bathroom strongly enough until several months have passed and it's time to actually come out of hibernating. And they might just get the feeling of being hungry and the sort of hormonal trigger giving them the sense that it's time to seek out a mate.
Okay. All right. It's funny. I now have this picture in my head. I get weird pictures in my head of like a black bear with like his little legs crossed, like trying to shuffle to the bathroom really quickly because he hasn't gone to the bathroom in 5 months. I don't know, something crazy, but I know that's not true. But anyways, all right. So getting serious.
I wish I had a good porta potty joke about bears. Need some help on that one.
I know this would have been a perfect time. Yeah, if you have some potty humor jokes about bears, feel free to drop them in the comments.
We know they
But
poop in the woods already.
yeah,
That's it.
when a bear wakes up, is it like, let's use a bear as an example since we're already talking about it. Actually, no, let's talk about animals in general. When an animal wakes up from hibernation, is it like instant, like, or is it like our teenager where you see her slowly kind of melting down the stairs and into the kitchen and it's like groggy slow motion?
It's much slower than that. So it's not at all like flipping a switch. Waking up or coming out of a hibernation state requires all the different systems in your body to kind of kick it into another gear, and they might be out of shape, they might not have flex, they might not be hydrated optimally to be able to get back into action. So usually the first thing that starts is an increase in the heart rate, the body temperature starts to come up, and their metabolism starts to kick back into gear. Bears wake up sluggishly, and it might take them several days, even just sort of staying in their den and lounging around for a few days before venturing out because they need all their systems to come back up to speed. Smaller hibernators like ground squirrels, they can warm up much faster, but they need to find food right away. Bears tend to look for water and hydrate first because that's really important to getting their systems going. And then any like unexercised digestive tract also takes some time to warm up. So some animals aren't hungry right away, just as someone who's experienced intense starvation can't really eat a lot of food right away. They have to let their body acclimate towards digesting food once again.
So I came up with a little interesting fun fact for this discussion while we were both doing a little bit of research, and that is that some animals will just survive the cold of winter by basically turning into ice cubes, or the like animal version of ice cubes, and then just thaw in the spring. And like, so it's not even about hibernating and just sleeping for a long period of time. They like literally just freeze.
Yeah, it's wild. There's the Arctic ground squirrel can drop its temperature like that and kind of become a squirrel popsicle for a few months and before it revives itself when it thaws out in the spring. And there's some animals that don't fully hibernate, but they kind of go into mini hibernation states. The common porwheel, which is a bird that can enter into a torpor state for days at a time when food is really scarce or it's really cold. And chipmunks kind of do this in their underground burrows as well, essentially sleeping and snacking away the winter. While it's really cold, they've burrowed down below the frost line, and their burrows kind of go down underground but then turn up. So when they're in the burrow area, the warm heat is rising and just staying in their burrow instead of going down and out through their tunnels and stuff. So they essentially just wait it out. And that's why you see chipmunks like gathering food all summer long. They're filling up their burrow, preparing for the wintertime.
All right. So we all know that bears hibernate. You've touched on a couple of other species that do as well. But what are some animals that our viewers might be surprised to hear hibernate?
Yeah, so box turtles, and actually a lot of turtles, they don't really seem like hibernators, but they bury themselves in the mud and they slow their heart rate down to just a few beats per minute and they wait out that cold weather. Bumblebees are interesting. Only the queen bumblebee survives the winter, but she does this by hibernating underground and then starts off a brand new colony in the spring with the larva from the prior year's group. Lemurs, so for example, in Madagascar, the fat-tailed dwarf lemur, that's a fun name, fat-tailed dwarf lemur. They are the only primate known to hibernate, so it can sleep for months in tree holes when food is scarce. Snakes hibernate, often in groups where they kind of conserve their body heat in a collective of snakes, in a big group, usually underground, keeping themselves warm in dens. And sometimes on a first like warm sunny day in the spring, they'll come out but sort of maintain that dense ball of snakiness, and you might come across a whole band of 10 or 20 snakes somewhere that's just keeping themselves warm. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with snakes at all. I used to catch them when I was a kid just to like look at them, but I don't know that I want to see that. And you know who would really hate that experience is Indiana Jones because he doesn't
He
like
would.
snakes.
In fact, so many species hibernate that early ornithologists, before they had discovered how birds actually migrate, they had hypothesized that birds hibernated under the mud, just like turtles and frogs. And serious ornithologists thought that's where the birds went all winter when they disappeared.
Yeah, that's crazy, but I'm sorry. I've just totally derailed my own thought process. Thank you, ADHD. Is that what was going on in that Indiana Jones movie when he goes into that underground temple and there's all those snakes down there? Is that why they were under there? They were hibernating?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Were they in Egypt when that happened? It's not so much like a
They were
cold
they were
hibernating.
somewhere, I think, in the Middle East. I don't know. Do we might have to research this. Oh, that would explain a lot. I always wondered why that whole temple was filled with snakes.
Don't always trust what you see in movies, folks.
Hey, you don't know.
I don't.
The people in that movie could have been nature lovers. That could have been like a subtle signal to nature information. All right. Anyway. Okay. So to wrap this up, before I take us any deeper down the rabbit hole of hibernation, do rabbits hibernate? No.
No.
Okay. Animals wake up from hibernation in the spring because of a mixture of like environmental stuff going on, like the increasing daylight and the warming temperatures, but also what's going on with their biological clocks, their circadian rhythms, and they might have to pee, right? And they're probably hungry.
Yeah. Their fat reserves are running low.
Okay. All right. Okay. Seems clear.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder, for those watching, have you ever spotted an animal emerging from hibernation in spring? Let us know.
Oh gosh, have you guys seen the snakes, like the clumpy snakes coming out? If you've seen that, I want to know about this in the comments. And did it freak you out? Because it would freak me out. Would it freak you out? It would freak me out.
No, I'd like to see it. Nowadays, I'd just get out my smartphone, and depending on the species, I'd probably try to get as close to it as I could and see what footage I could get of it.
And it would end up here on Hike and Hearth.
Yeah.
All right.
I do this for you. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe for more nature discoveries every single week.
So that is all for today's episode. But before we head off on our next adventure, this is just a quick reminder from us to you that you can find Dustin's wildlife photography and links to all of our content channels on our website, hikeandhearth.com.
And we love being a part of the YouTube nature community. So keep sharing your comments and your experiences with us on nature, wildlife, and conservation. And if you're not already subscribed, be sure to join us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love the comments and chatting with you guys. It's a lot of fun. And if you are on Substack, we did just start a newsletter, Nature Notes with Hike and Hearth, so we can expand on some of the topics we cover here on the vodcast, like the rabbit hole I might go down on what was the deal with all those snakes in Indiana Jones's temple. It's only been a couple of weeks, but subscribers are certainly ramping up. So be sure you join us over there as well. Okay, Dustin, are you ready to sign us off for the day?
I sure am. Until next time, friends, keep your eyes in the skies and your hearts in the wild.
Bye, everyone.